Welcome to Conspiracy Corner, the podcast that delves into the mysteries that keep us up at night. I'm your host, Anthony Wade.
And I'm Skylar, ready to dive headfirst into the rabbit hole of the unknown.
And I'm Everett, here to provide a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking.
Today we are tackling a phenomenon that has the internet buzzing, the Mandela effect.
Oh, this is going to be good. The Mandela effect is one of those mind-bending topics that just refuses to let go.
For those who aren't familiar, the Mandela effect is a large group of people collectively misremember a specific event, person, or detail.
The name itself comes from the widespread belief that Nelson Mandela died in prison in 1980s, when in fact he lived until 2013.
It's crazy, right? How can so many people remember something that didn't actually happen?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There are a few theories that try to explain the phenomenon.
Let's dive into those theories, shall we?
Oh yes, let's do it. What's the first one, Everett?
Well, the most common explanation is that it's simply a case of false memories. Our brains are wired to fill in the gaps and make assumptions, and sometimes those assumptions become sedimented as memories.
That makes sense, but it doesn't explain why so many people would have the same false memories, doesn't it?
Exactly, that's where the more out there theories come in. Some people believe that the Mandela effect is a result of parallel universes, where we're all shifting between slightly different realities.
Ah yes, the multiverse theory. It is an intriguing idea, but it is also incredibly difficult to prove.
Well, if we can't prove the multiverse theory, what about the simulation theory? Some people think the Mandela effect is a glitch in the Matrix, so to speak.
Oh, I love that one. It's like we're all living in a giant video game and the developers are just messing with us.
Yeah, that's a fun one, but it's also pretty far-fetched. I'm more inclined to believe that the collective consciousness theory.
Ah yes, the idea that we're all trapped into a shared universe memory bank.
That's fascinating. So it's not that we're all remembering the same false thing, but rather that we're all accessing the same collective memory, even if it's not accurate.
Exactly, it's like a mass hallucination. One of those shared across a large group of people.
Wow, this is really making my head spin. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into some more specific examples of the Mandela effect.
Some people just know there's a podcast about that. Those are the people who know to choose Allstate.
Big tea drinker?
Yeah.
There's a podcast about tea.
He knows, and he wants you to know too.
I was listening to a podcast on if dogs know their dogs.
There's a podcast about that?
Just like he'd want you to know about Allstate.
There's a podcast about fly fishing called Why Is That Person Doing That? It's called Tea-rific.
Are you listening to a podcast?
Yeah, it's about multitasking.
Some people just know there's a podcast about that. Those are the people who know you're in good hands with Allstate.
Welcome back to the Conspiracy Corner. Before the break, we were discussing the various theories behind the Mandela effect. Now, let's take a look at some specific examples that have really captured people's attention.
Absolutely. One of the most famous examples is the Berenstain Bears. Many people remember the popular children's book series being spelled Berenstain Bears, but it's actually Berenstain Bears.
Oh, I remember that one. It's so weird how our memories can be so different from the actual reality.
Definitely. Another classic example is the Monopoly Man. Many people swear he had a monocle, but if you look at the actual Monopoly Man, he's never had one.
That's right, and it's not just the Monopoly Man. There are tons of other pop culture references that people misremember, like the Looney Tunes, character being Looney Tunes, or the famous lines from the movie Star Wars, being Luke, I am your father, when it's actually, no, I am your father.
Wow, those are really mind-bending examples. It makes you wonder, what else are we collectively misremembering?
Exactly, and that's part of what makes the Mandela effect so fascinating. It's like a window into the fidelity of human memory and the way our brains can play tricks on us.
Absolutely, and it's not just pop culture references either. There are also examples of historical events and figures that people remember differently.
Like what? Give us more examples.
Well, one that's really interesting is the Fruit of the Loom logo. Many people remember it having a cornucopia or a horn of plenty, but if you look at the actual logo, it's never had one.
Wow, that's a good one. Another example is the location of Australia on a map. A lot of people seem to remember it being further east than it actually is.
Huh, that's really fascinating. It makes you wonder what other little details we've been collectively misremembering all the time. You know, to get a deeper understanding of this phenomenon, let's bring in an expert. We have Dr. Whaley, a cognitive anatomy and physiology teacher who can provide some insight on this subject. Dr. Whaley, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. The Mandela effect is a really fascinating topic that speaks to the fallibility of human memory. What we're seeing is that people can have very vivid, confident memories of things that simply didn't happen that way.
So what do you think is behind this phenomenon? Is it just our brains playing tricks on us?
There are a few factors that play. First, our memories are highly reconstructive. We don't store perfect recordings of events, but rather piece together information based on our existing knowledge and experiences. This can lead to subtle distortions over time.
Interesting. And what about the more extreme examples, like the Fruit of the Loom logo? How do you explain those?
Well, those types of examples suggest there may be something more complex going on, perhaps even involving parallel universes or simulations. But the scientific evidence for those kinds of explanations is still quite limited. More research is needed to fully understand the Mandela effect.
Fascinating. So in the meantime, what should we take away from all this?
I think the key takeaway is to be humble about the reliability of our own memories. Just because we remember something vividly doesn't mean it's an accurate representation of reality. We should always be open to revising our beliefs in light of new information.
Great insight, Dr. Whaley. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. This is an intriguing topic, and I'm glad we could explore it further.
It isn't just a fun curiosity. It actually has some serious implications for our understanding of memory, consciousness, and even the nature of reality itself.
That's a great point. The Mandela effect challenges our assumptions about the stability and reliability of our own memories, and that can have a far-reaching consequences.
So, what do you think? Are we living in a simulation? Are there parallel universe? Or is it simply a case of our brains playing tricks on us?
Honestly, I don't think there's a simple answer. The Mandela effect is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon that probably has multiple contributing factors.
I agree, and I think that's part of what makes it so intriguing. It's a mystery that challenges our understanding of the world and our place in it.
Well, listeners, there you have it, the Mandela effect. A mind-bending mystery that's sure to keep us all wondering and questioning.
Absolutely. And remember, if you ever find yourself questioning your own memories, you're not alone. The Mandela effect is a reminder that our brains are complex and fallible, and that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
Exactly, so keep an open mind, stay curious, and don't be afraid to question the reality you think you know. Who knows what other surprises the universe might have in store for us.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Thanks for joining us on the Conspiracy Corner. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep your mind open.